because interest group don't want the system become chaotic. And to a certain extent, the shared view, I agree with you, China is not Carol. The most important thing, Beijing is not Carol. The most important thing is China is on the rise from historical perspective. That shared vision among the Chinese public will not prevent the country going down. But at the same time, the fundamental change should occur within the party leadership. If too slow, it will be a real disaster. You talk about should be patient, that's true, but again, 100 years, it's how could you talk about patience? And,
okay. Thank you. There are a couple of questions on a somewhat similar theme that I think are largely addressed to our democracy expert in House Yu Keping, and I'll try to maybe summarize a couple of them because many of the people here come from, broadly speaking, the Chinese diaspora, and that of course includes people who are very familiar with the experience in Taiwan, which I think just about by everybody's standards has made a complete transition to what we would consider to be full democracy, or I guess you could say pejoratively Western-style democracy. But how do people on mainland China in the leadership view the experience in Taiwan? Do they view it as a model for change, or do they view it as a direction, despite the fact that it's a Chinese-based culture, that's still very inappropriate for mainland China?
Personally, I care much about the political changes in Taiwan. At the very beginning of this year, the first workshop or conference I participated is the conference to be held in Taiwan. The focus of that workshop or conference, particularly on the possibility of to establish a political experiment or democratic experiment special district in the mainland. Some Taiwanese people made such a suggestion. Then, at that workshop, I made my opinion about the Taiwan's political changes. According to my view, Taiwan, any progress in Taiwan, even in the practice of Taiwanese democracy, I think we should take much more care about it, because Taiwanese culture is still the Chinese culture. So I just say, I really hope Taiwan to do much little better in democratic change. But for most of Chinese people, since Taiwan carried out the first universal delegate election of the Taiwan as a leadership, the Cheng But Cheng Shih-bian just was a negative example, because he was totally corrupted. So for the mainland people, it's not. I don't think it's a good thing. But anyway, there's a lot of things to do comparative studies between the mainland and the Taiwan. So I even let my colleagues particularly care about attention to any political changes in Taiwan, and we set a special program to comparative studies the governance reform between mainland and in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. There's a question or two here related to the problem of corruption in China, and maybe I can ask Dazong to just address a little bit from your perspective, sitting and watching the business culture in China today. Do you have worries yourself about corruption being an impediment to change or prompting social pressure for greater change in China? Do you think the corruption problem is getting worse, or do you think it's under control?
That is indeed exists, particularly for the big companies, like Beijing Auto. The 5 years we built a lot of plants. There's 80 billion investment, buying equipment, buying tools. Those are the opportunity for corruption, right? Buying parts. So there's indeed we are aware, there's a lot of those things going on. Okay. But at the same time, the leadership is, emphasizing, and that this is not totally, at least our company, okay, totally not acceptable, and we do have some mechanism that they're watching, these kind of events and punish where appropriate. So it is a problem. It is not very healthy, but I wouldn't go as far as saying that thing is out of control. So that's my judgment.
Okay. Cheng, do you have any feelings about how corruption?
Well, certainly, I agree with you that it's a serious problem, and also that I think your company is fine. But a lot of I don't know about that one. How do you know? But you said I believe you. Yeah, but the main problem this time occurred in the state-owned enterprises. They become stronger and stronger, bigger and bigger. The recent release about the railroad, right?
Yes.
That the deputy, not the minister, according to 环球时报, Global Times, this is a branch of People's Daily, saying that he had $2.8 billion in his account. There's a widely spread rumor start to emerge in China. I don't know, I cannot know whether it's right or wrong, saying that the minister of railroad always want to get a 4% commission for any deals he sign. This is astonishing. I mean, with this kind of rapid development. At the same time, the private sector is really shrinking. The foreign company also in a very disadvantaged position because of China's concept of indigenous innovation. I think the state-owned enterprises, particularly SASAC companies, the central control, not you are Beijing controlled, the central controlled SASAC companies, it really should clean up its house. And in oil, in state grid, in all these kind of companies, I think there's a need to check and to monitor very, very closely.
Clarence and Dazong, there's one or two questions here related to China's integration or involvement with the outside world. Chinese who are coming out and doing investing abroad, or Dazong, like in your case, coming and working in major American companies and learning American ways. What's your impression now about the willingness of Chinese to go out and study the way things are done internationally versus stay at home and benefit from this, the very high rates of economic growth that are going on there? Do you see a lot of young people doing what you did at one time, is to come and study here and find a job with an American company and go back, or do you find more young people today are content just to stay in China?
Well, a lot of my friends, I get a lot of questions. My friends want to send their kids to study in America. So I think America still is a place that admired by a lot of people. Now, from a company standpoint, we all, at least in our sector, we all recognize that my peers, the globalization is something we have to do to be sustainable. Short term, 7% increase, that's just short term thing. Okay, long term, sustainable, you have to be a global company. If you compare to where we are with the multinationals, you mentioned General Motors, the Chinese company is still far behind. It's far behind in terms of the innovation capability, in terms of the management in terms of talent.